I'm Ellie Drake, and you're watching BraveHeart Women TV. Hello, everyone, and welcome to BraveHeart Women TV. I'm Ellie Drake, and this is your personal blossoming show. We've all experienced times in our lives when, despite our best efforts, something or someone seems to get the better of us. Have you ever felt that way? No, you're perfect, I know. How do we find out who is pushing our buttons and how do we stop them? With me to discuss this topic, we have psycho-spiritual therapist Dr. Pamela Zimmer, film producer Suzanne Lyons, and holistic psychiatrist and best-selling author Dr. Hyla Cass. Welcome, everyone.
Hi.
Thank you. So what are buttons? Because I know you don't have any buttons today. You don't have any buttons, but Dr. Pamela has at least 3.
And I probably have at least 3 internally as well. Yes. At least 3 in activation at this moment. Yeah, I mean, buttons for me are anything that makes me feel some static, makes me feel like I'm being pushed in some way. Makes me feel that I don't have full control over the situation. That's my experience with buttons.
Okay, so buttons, meaning, you know, sometimes we tell people, don't push my buttons, or they keep pushing my buttons. So for you, it's more like, I don't feel like I'm in control. Yeah. What about you, Suzanne?
For me, yeah, it's kind of the same thing. I mean, my first instinct is to kind of want to react, to kind of want to lash out a little bit, to kind of get upset.
Yes.
And then I've been kind of training myself over the years to kind of not do that, to kind of count to 10.
Yeah.
Take a deep breath to think maybe, is there a little bit of truth to it, even if it's only perceived truth, if there's something there. And then the other thing I kind of tend to do is just say, okay, given that there's that old saying, you're never upset with what you think you are.
Yeah.
Ever upset with what you think you are. So then I kind of look back and go, okay, given that it's maybe not something that's happening at the moment, let's just have a little bit of reflection here.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I go with it when I'm present enough to do that. I mean, sometimes I'm crazy.
Yeah. So for me, it's if it's feeling pushed, if a button inside of me is feeling pushed, then there's always some truth to it. Yeah. But if there's nothing that feels pushed, then often there's no truth to it. Yeah. Okay, so we'll talk about that more. But where do buttons come from, Dr. Hyla?
You know, buttons really come from ourselves, from our what are called disowned selves, the parts of ourselves that we don't really want to look at. So if we have an aversion to people being bossy, there's a part of us, A, that's bossy, B, that we may be using unconsciously. And what the message is to me, if I feel that my button is being pushed, is, oh, that's something I need to own. Yeah. I need to own my own pushiness.
My dad had this issue with having the lights on when you weren't actually in the room or using the light constantly. And so he would, in a very angry way, either come in and yell, turn off the lights, or he would come in and, with some anger, turn them off himself. And often you would hear people in my family going, I'm in here, or I'm coming right back, or I'm in the kitchen. You know, like, in other words, he wouldn't even stop to look.
Yeah. Right.
So for me, this created a button that told me, yes, it was related to the lights in a sense, but in a way it was that feeling of being pushed to do something that wasn't right for me in that moment.
So there's still almost, when we're talking about it, there's still a little bit of like sabotage going on around that. Just a little bit.
Possibly.
Okay. Now the funny thing is my dad did the same thing with lights. However, it's so interesting, but what he would do is he'd go turn off the lights and sing a little joke. Sing a little like joke into a song, like here's 1 light, here's 2 lights, here's 3 lights, and he would sing this in Persian. He'd say "Yecharaq, Yecharaq, Secharaq," and he would turn them off. And so I associated him turning it off with fun. So even today when I go to turn off lights, I go giggle, fun. So see, that didn't create a button in me.
For you.
But that doesn't mean that, well, let me see, Dad. Yeah. So for instance, here's another example, just that you don't feel bad about yours.
Thank you.
For instance, when he was growing up, he would do lots of sports, and on some level he felt like he didn't become who he wanted to become because he was distracted by this sport and that sport. And so growing up, he kind of, you know, mentioned that to me often. And I realized until recently that I've had this real resistance toward exercising. And I went deeper and I go, why is that? And I had almost a button on some level around exercising, perceived sports, being athletic, because almost like felt his sense of regret around it somehow cellularly in me. So what happened there? You're a psychiatrist, I'm sitting on your couch.
I mean, this is amazing that as we grow up and begin to see our parents as people, imagine that. They're not just mommy and daddy, they're actually human beings. So, you know, the issue with the lights, they grew up in the Depression. You know, they had it that they really did have to conserve. They did have to conserve money and electricity. And in a way, when you can think of it that way, you can have more empathy for where they're coming from. And I find that anytime I'm having a button pushed, if I can just put myself in their shoes, just
have a little empathy,
a little bit, it's, oh, that's where they're coming from. And if you're any bit intuitive, and I'm sure we all are, and we're women, so of course we're intuitive, we can kind of get in there and say, oh, that's what they're feeling.
So that sense of empathy helps you flatten the button, basically. You know, have you found this, by the way, Suzanne, that, you know, it's almost like universally we're not supposed to have, or spiritually rather, we're not supposed to have buttons. So what happens is the universe sends us people, circumstances, and situations to push our buttons in order for us to feel the pain of, I am sick and tired of getting this button pushed, now I'm going to flatten it. So that's a way for me to spiritually grow. So that gets us to our next point. Can we then ever stop people or circumstances from pushing our buttons?
I don't think we can stop them from doing it. I actually think we do. I think the empathy point was excellent. I think we have to figure out how to either perceive it differently or how to take the full responsibility for it ourselves and just change the whole perspective on it.
But if they come to you, go ahead, Suzanne.
No, I think so too. I think it's all about, just as I'm learning and growing through the years, I'm luckily being able to be more present. And I find the more present I am, the more in the moment I am, the more my perception I don't get the knee-jerk reaction as much as I used to. I don't kind of, you know, go right there, you know, which I would. I kind of jump right into it. It's kind of, I'm able to take that deep breath and realize that it is perception. It is over here. I get that the ball is always in my court. It's always how I perceive it. That other person may just been having a bad day, and I'm triggered by whatever it is because of whatever I'm holding on to. So I find that doesn't come necessarily. I don't think we're born with that. That is a skill. That's like a muscle. And for me, it has been. I've worked on that. I truly have. I really took these kinds of things on years and years and years ago. To really flex that muscle on a daily basis, to think, okay, this is not about me. This may be what they're saying, but this is kind of like, you know, I get to be able to react and perceive it the way that I want to. It's that choice element of choice, and without the need, you kind of get to act as opposed to react.
So we all have buttons. We all have buttons. They get developed by our upbringings and cultural surroundings and all of that. So we have that. We cannot stop people from pushing our buttons because the universe is sending us the people to help flatten our buttons in order for us to spiritually grow.
So we just have to remember that.
So when you have someone in your life that keeps on pushing your buttons, you can look at them and say, you know, you are being such a good, what would be the name for them? Teacher. And then look at yourself.
Thank you, universe, for sending me this teacher.
It mirrors us.
Totally.
I get it. I mean, it's sometimes we don't like it. I don't like it. But when we have things we don't like, it's clearly something that's in us that we're not dealing with.
Something that we need to then work with.
Or judging someone. I remember the first time I remember in my psychiatric residency, and my supervisor said something that was totally wrong. And I thought, well, he's wrong. And, you know, like, oh. And then I said, well, just a minute. He's a human being. He's not my daddy. And he was in the role of, you know, like a parent figure. But hey, he can be wrong. It's okay.
Yeah, and perhaps you had a button around that and you had to flatten it. So do we want to be buttonless?
I would like to be buttonless.
We want to be buttonless. I want to be buttonless. You don't want to be buttonless? We can talk about that on the next show. Okay, that's our show for today. I want to be buttonless. Be sure to join us for our next Personal Blossoming show, where along with our special guest, Deborah King, we'll be exploring how to be your own shaman. Oh my goodness, be buttonless, be your own shaman. This is what you get on BraveHeart Women TV. In the meantime, be sure to go to braveheartwomencore.com and find out what the Core Inner Circle is all about. Core members, you can also access Dr. Hyla's exclusive video, 8 Weeks to Vibrant Health, in your Core member section. We love hearing from you, so come on over. Share your questions and comments in the BraveHeart Women discussion boards. And finally, on behalf of everyone here on our show today, thank you for watching BraveHeart Women TV and be inspiration in action.